Firstly, can you give us a brief background as to what led to the impounding of the aircraft?
Well, this case had its birth in a Zimbabwean family of 5 who intended to travel to Turkey, and Air Namibia, on advice received from the German immigration officials, decided to deny the passengers boarding for their travels to Turkey, as they did not meet immigration requirements to travel through Germany on the day in question. The airline then repatriated the family back to Zimbabwe, and the family thereafter decided to sue the airline for an amount of $1 million United States dollars. The airline opposed the application by the family, after which the family basically took no further action as far as prosecuting the matter was concerned, until Air Namibia brought an application for dismissal of their case, whereafter they then proceeded to following up on the matter. The judge in question, without calling any of the parties, then made an order against Air Namibia that Air Namibia property be attached. The attachment is basically for purposes of founding the jurisdiction of the Zimbabwean court to hear the matter. Alternatively, the court will have no jurisdiction to hear the matter. On 5 October, Air Namibia was then informed of the fact that the aircraft would be impounded in Harare. Air Namibia communicated with the officials on the ground, explaining the fact that the aircraft in question is one leased from West Air. It is not an Air Namibian aircraft, and on that basis managed to secure the release of the aircraft, which then returned back to base on 6 October, which was Saturday morning. That is where the matter currently stands. Air Namibia has appointed alternative legal representation in Harare. They are now in the process of drafting papers with which to have the matter placed on the roll of the Supreme Court for purposes of determining it to the end.
Now, it is understood that Air Namibia has put certain measures in place. Can you perhaps elaborate on those, or is that included in what you've just said?
It is basically included in what we have just said, but it is also with understanding that any airline has a right to deny passengers boarding. It is within the nature of the aviation industry as to who gets to board an aircraft and who does not. If a country advises that a specific individual is not welcome within that nation, then Air Namibia is only obliged to act on the instructions of the immigration officials of such a nation, and not to take the passengers to that country, because failing that, Air Namibia will be left with the consequences of not having complied with a request from a country as to the passengers being transported by the airline.
Now, this is not the first time that an Air Namibia aircraft is grounded. Can you fill us in on what seems to be some of the challenges? What exactly is going wrong, and what is Air Namibia doing to prevent similar incidents from happening?
Yes, it is worth understanding the fact that what transpired here was an attempt at attachment to found jurisdiction of a court in another country, which is something which is distinct from a grounding of an aircraft that can happen for various reasons, such as maintenance or fueling of an aircraft, etc., etc. What happened here was an attempt to attach to found jurisdiction, something which the airline has not experienced in recent years. It is something that happened at this point, and it is something that the airline managed to contain successfully on the day.
Now, as is customary, the airline has to foot the bill for passengers' inconveniences. How many passengers were due to travel in this case, and what were the financial cost implications?
Sure. On the day in question, there were some 43 passengers on board the aircraft, 70% of which were actually Zimbabwean nationals. So with the delay of the aircraft and subsequent cancellation of the flight, it was basically an instance where most of the passengers would have either returned home to their houses and then come back the next day in order to proceed with their journey. Some of the passengers were rerouted via South Africa, whereas a very minimal amount were put up in hotels in Harare. So the financial implication, though there, was not as severe as one would have thought on the day in question, because Air Namibia prides itself on the comfort of the passengers it carries, and on the day in question make sure that all passengers were well catered for.